Hello everybody, this is Parveen and I welcome you to App DNA where we talk about all things apps. Today we'll be building a simple app. It's a personal finance tracker app which will showcase the power of low-code platforms through which you can build much bigger business enterprise apps. So today we'll get started with the app. I'll create this app in 5 simple steps. In the first step, we are going to create a form through which we can add a new account. Now this account can be our bank account or our mobile wallet. So let's create this form. First up, we'll log to creator.zoho.com. I'm already logged in, so it'll save me time. And I'm going to start with a new application for my personal finance tracker. Remember, if you have already been using spreadsheets or any other kind of files for maintaining your finances, then you can experimenting with simply importing a file through this button. You can drag and drop your files and you will get started with your app already. I'm going to start with a new application and this takes me to this app gallery. Now this has more than 60 apps pre-built for you which you can straight away install and start using. One of these apps is my personal finance tracker app that once this tutorial is over, I'll go through so that you can know what developers have in place. Those apps are much more sophisticated and they are ready to use. But now let's get started with our app right from scratch so that you learn with me. I'm going to name it as Personal Finance Tracker App DNA and hit Create. This is the edit mode of my app where I'm going to design, write some workflows, change settings. I'll get started with create a new form. I would like to create my form from blank, but remember, as I said, if you already have a lot of data in your spreadsheets regards your income and expenses and other such files, then you can simply import those, or you can use a template and such other integrations. We are going to start with the basic step. From blank. First up, I'm going to add my accounts, all my bank accounts. I'll name this form as add account. This is my form filter where I'm being prompted to drag a field here. These are my data fields which I can simply drag and drop here to build my form. I want to know my account name, so I'm getting started with a single line field here. I'm going to name it as account name. These are the field properties. If you want to restrict this form entry to just one entry, then you can click on these properties and you can go down here where you can disable the form after, let's say, one entry if we are going to maintain this personal finance tracker for just one account. But for now, I'm just leaving it blank because maybe I have a lot of accounts, one savings account, one current account, one credit account. You can also allow one entry per user. So these are some of the form properties which you can use. You can capture the location. You can also send an email notification to yourself or to the admin. For now, I'm going to get with the next field, which is the status. I want to know the status of this account, whether it's still active or it has gone defunct. I'm going to name this field as status, and this is a drop down that I'm using here. I'm going to use two choices here. Active and inactive. I'm going to not have a choice tree, but you can have other choices as well, like locked, defunct. So I'm going to just click on allow other choice so that I can have other choices for my account as well. And then I'm going to have a currency field here to get started with my available balance. I can choose my currency type here. I'm going to use Indian rupees. The initial value, I'm going to set it up at 0.00. The maximum digits, the decimal points. You can also have this contains personal data for each of these fields. Let's click on this. You can even encrypt your data. So there are a lot of security options when you use a low-code platform like Creator. The application will remain inaccessible for everyone while the encryption is in progress. Okay, I understand. Proceed. Okay, that means I'm going to have to wait. I almost regret this. So let's wait and talk about our field till then. In the next step, I'm going to have a form to add income, and then we will have our add expenses. And in the fourth step, we will have a workflow to, add these incomes and subtract these expenses from the available balance. Simple maths. And in the fifth step, I'm going to have a dashboard. So my form has been created, and now I'm going to access this application. So the difference between the live mode and the edit mode is that in the edit mode, we built the app. And when I access this application, this is the live mode where I can see my app running. So I created this add account form. Let's get started with creating my first account. Let's say it's my bank, SBI. So SBI is like State Bank of India. SBI, and the status is active. I could have made my default status as active actually, and to start with I have an available balance of, let's say, 0. Now I'll go to edit this application in a new tab, but before that I'll show what reports are. So as soon as I've submitted one form, this is going to be visible in this all accounts here. So form is where you add the data, and reports is where you can see all the data entries, all the records for that particular form. So I have bank SBI here, it's active. I'm going to go to my form once again, and the status I can make it as active by default. This time when I add an account, by default it's going to be active unless I actually make it inactive. So we are done with the first form, and let's move to the second form where we'll be building the income form. In the third step, we are going to create another form like the expense form, but this would be to capture our income. Now that we have added our account, we are going to create another form, and that would be to capture our incomes. So in the second step, we are creating another form the same way we created the first. I'm going to name this form as add income, and we are going to start with adding the date for this income. Next, I'll use a special field called the lookup. So what lookup does, it relates to forms. I want to know which account my income is going into. So all I have to do is just use the add account form, the account name, and hit done. If you have ever used spreadsheets, you'd know that relating to forms is so difficult. You have to use VLOOKUP, macros, but with local platforms, it's easy. Like especially with Creator, you can use the lookup to relate to forms. So you can easily access data residing in another form. And when I later manipulate the data, I know easily that it's the SBI account, let's say, where this income is going into. As you work more with Creator, I think you're going to really appreciate things like lookup very much. I'm going to rename it as choose account. Now I can also set a filter here. So I'll set a filter because I want the income to be added only to active accounts. Go to status equals active. So only the filter accounts will appear here. Next, I will have a currency field for the amount. Remember to choose your currency type the same as you have chosen in your account. And I'll have another single line field in between here for the source of income. Whether it's my salary or any other source. Hit done, and we'll quickly refresh. So here is my add income form. I'm going to choose the date as today, choose account bank SBI. It's coming a single line. I'm sure it didn't get added properly that time. So if your fields didn't get added properly, you can simply go here. You can see the add income here. You open the form builder. It's very easy to add anything. You need not go through difficult processes as encoding. Refresh, it appears as source of income. Choose account bank SBI, source of income salary, amount is 50,000. So this is our second step. In the third step, I'm going to add expenses. Now once you have your account ready, we are going to create a new form through which we are going to capture our expenses. So this form will be used every time you have an expense and you enter the data for it. After adding my incomes, in this third step, I'm going to create a new form to add expense. This we will do in two parts. First, we will create a form named just new expense subcategory or subform. You'll see why I call this a subform. So this is the expense subform. And here I would list down the expense category that you might have. So use a drop down field and I'll name it as expense category. So right here you can list down any kind of categories that you have. Let's say you have rent or food expense, or you could have your transportation as well. You can allow for other choices such as shopping or anything else. Once I know the expense category, I will have the currency field for the amount spent. And then I can use this image field to upload the bill. Name it as upload bill. Hit done. Now that I have my expense subform, I'm going to create another form, and this is to track my expenses. So now because in income I didn't have major categories, I did that in one way. But if you have a lot of other incomes, also you could do it this way as well. I'm just showing you two ways of doing things. So this one I'll name as add expense. So here I can use the date field again like we did in add income to know the date of the expense. Then we'll use the lookup to know from which account this expense has been incurred. So add account, account name. Here again you can set a filter. So I'm going to set a filter that the status of the account should equal active. So the only active accounts appear here. Hit done, and then I'm going to use the subform. So subform is where you can embed another form that you have already created. So here I would be using my expense subform, and I'll rename this as expense list. After expense list, I will use the currency field for the total expense. There's a section here which I don't want, and hit done. Now when I go to access my application, if I go to my expense, add expense, you can see that I'll choose today's date, add account bank SBI, expense category is rent, amount spent, I can upload a bill, and then the total expense should be calculated here when, let's say, I put another one, 1000, but that's not happening. For this, I will need to move on to the workflows in the next step. In the fourth step, we are going to create a simple workflow through which we are going to add our income and subtract our expenses to show our current bank balance at all times. So for the fourth step, which is the workflows to add our income and subtract our expenses, we have to create a workflow where we will do a little bit of coding, nothing much except if-else statements. So let's create a new workflow. While using the form, first we are going to add the income. So add income, name the workflow as add income, add a new action. On successful user submit, so this is a delete script that will run when my form successfully is submitted, and I'm going to use a fetch record from here. So a fetch record would fetch certain records from another form for me. So let me name my variable as, let's say, fetch balance. So this fetch balance variable will go to my add account form. It will match the ID of all the records in that add account form with whatever I have chosen as choose account. So in my add income, when I'm adding an income, I would choose an account through this choose account field, remember? So it would match this with all the records in add account form. So it will know which bank account I'm talking about, and then that would be fetched with this variable. I hope you understood this. It was simple. Next, I'm going to use a simple if statement. So if fetch balance is not equal to null, that means there is a variable that has been returned, then I'm simply going to go to this collection fetch balance dot available balance, fetch balance dot available balance, and I'm going to add amount, income amount right here. Try to save, submit, and update. Now I will go and refresh my app. So now in my refreshed app, I'm going to choose a date, choose my account. Source of income is, again, let's say salary, 12 rupees, hit add. So if I go to my all income, you can see that 12 is here, and this was the 50,000 that I added earlier before my workflow. And in my accounts, if you go, you'll see that I started with 0.0, but the 12 has been reflected here. That means my workflow is working. Next up, what I want is that every time I enter an expense here, it should get subtracted from my account and should update the balance. The subform here, also I update the workflow for this, but most probably I'm going to just hide this expense subform here because we don't need that. So let's go back to our workflows. I'm going to hide my subform. I'll show you how to hide certain forms or reports that you don't want. So I'll go to this expense subform, open it up, and just, no, I'm not going to delete it, I'm going to hide it. So for hiding, I can go to the sections here, and this is the hide here. So just hide this. So my hidden components are this expense subform, and the rest of it is not hidden, it's visible. So we're done with hiding the form. Now we will go and create our next workflow, that is to subtract the expenses from the total balance. While using the form, add expense. We'll name the workflow as subtract expense. Add a new action on successful form submission. So in this, we are going to do the same thing. We are going to fetch the record, variable fetch balance from the form, Add new account. The field ID should equal input dot add account. Once I know the balance, what I can do is simply subtract from it, right? Fetch balance dot available balance equal fetch balance dot available balance minus input dot total expense, whatever my total expense has come to. And then I'm going to hit save. Next up, I'm going to add another workflow, and that also happens in the add expense workflow while using the form add expense. This one is total expense add. So remember the subform. So when you have different items in the subform, it was not adding up, remember? Let's go to the add expense and show you what I mean. So when I add 2 or more expenses, I want both of these to be added and shown in the total expense. For that, this workflow will, so on the delete script, on user input of amount spent in the expense list. So every time I spend some amount and I put it in the add expenses subform, this workflow is going to run. So first step, I'm going to check for some valid amount, and then I'm going to add the amount to the total. This I've written so that later when I check the workflow, I know what this workflow was meant to be. It just helps you. So I'm going to use the if condition. So if row dot amount spent is less than, not less than, I want it to be less than equals 0.00. So row dot amount spent. So when you have a subform, how to access each of these rows is row dot. So if row dot amount spent is less than 00, then I will be thrown an alert that says enter a valid amount. That means any negative values will not be entertained here. And then row dot amount spent would be emptied. So that's done with a null. Else, so if the amount spent is more, then first up we will say that the total is 0. We'll assume that the total is 0, and then we'll have another loop for each row in input dot expense list. So each row here is a variable. So for each of the variable in input dot expense list, so for all the entries in my expense list, I'll have a workflow that adds up the total. What I did is this, I used a default function like if null within brackets. So what happens if my expense list has a null value, then only 0 will be added to the total. But if there is a value, then the amount spent would be added to this total. So this is a slight variation of what we did in the income. Instead of fetching a variable and then adding it to the total balance, here we are just using this bracket variation so that you know different ways of doing the same task with Creator. And then I can have the total expense, input the total expense as just total. So total expense will now reflect this total that we have calculated here. Hit save. And most of our workflows are done now. We'll go and refresh our app and check what happens this time when I add an expense. I'm adding an expense to my SBI bank. Expense category rent is 100. Then I have food expenses 5. Notice that the total expense has changed as 105. Let's add another one and test it out. So it should change to 107. As you can see, the total expense is changing. I'll hit add. So my workflow to add the total expense is working. I go to all accounts and see that there's minus 95 balance here because I added too much expense, and this expense was getting subtracted from this all accounts here. So in a more sophisticated version, we will not have a negative balance here. We will throw up an error that you do not have sufficient amount in your bank account for recording these expenses. But in this version, because it's a personal finance tracker, you know that you have minus 95. So you do not actually have minus 95 in your balance, but then you have offshot your. So that's all for the workflows, and we will move on to the dashboard. In the final step of the app, we are going to create a dashboard. This dashboard is important to keep a track of your expense habits. Now in this dashboard, we will have some simple charts to keep a track of the ways in which you are spending by type, your locked accounts, your active accounts. You can also have charts to show from where your income is coming and what is your current bank balance. So let's create this dashboard. In the fifth step, we are going to create dashboards for our personal finance tracker. So this is the most exciting part for any app making video that I make, because dashboards are created with pages right over here, and page is the most versatile feature that you can find on Creator. You can basically create anything with it. Like you can create your web pages, you can have HTML, ZML. It serves as anything and everything. You can have charts and buttons. If you create a proper dashboard, then you don't even need to go to the other sections of the app, and you can do everything right from the dashboard. So these are certain features that you can have. You can drag and drop these panels. They're so colorful. You can have charts. You can embed forms, reports, snippets for advanced programmers, and buttons here. Now I'm going to start with simple things. I'll use this one, okay? And I'll rename this as active balance. Display data text. You can have a lot of this. You can have either sum and minimum and maximum and a lot of stuff. Here I'll just have text that would say available balance, and in this I want to know the total balance, so I can simply go to the sum. I'll go to my add account form, and I want to know the actual balance. So for available balance, evaluate for all the records, show the sum as the actual, okay? And I can change the symbol over here to show rupee. You can customize pages as much as you want. Dollar symbol. Come on, you have a currency symbol. Yes. So this one. Now this is the sum. And then I can have an action. So the moment I click on this, let's say I want to open the report of my all accounts, okay? Done. Once I have my available balance, I also want to know the maximum expense that I have done this month, so that immediately when I see, oh my god, this is my expense, I just click on it and see what actually incurred that expense. I can go to panel again, and this time I'm going to choose this chart with the red stuff, and I'll name this as highest expense. Right here I'm going to use this maximum, largest value entered in a field, maximum of add expense field, and I can choose this total expense. You can have all records or selected records. In selected records, you can choose the fields here. So you can even choose for this month. So let's say I want to know the highest expense incurred this month. I can go to the user defined field date, and in date you have stuff like yesterday, today, last n days. I can even go for last year or this month. So I'll just choose this month and hit done. Now I want to also change the text here so that it reflects what it is, highest expense this month, and then you can have highest expense this year. I want to choose an action also so that it opens the selected report of all expenses, and done. So I have the highest expense this month, and then I can have income this month. For this I'll use this one again. Which one should I choose? I can choose this income, and here I can choose the sum of all the incomes. I'll go for this field amount. You can select records again for the date, which could be this month, and hit done. I'll again name this. So as you can see in pages, you can customize a lot. You can have any sort of panel, any sort of chart that you want. I'll go for the action also so that it opens the report of all income. And then I can juxtapose both of this together by just dragging and dropping the look. So I have the highest expense this month, I have the income this month, and then I have the available balance right here. Now I also want to use charts. I want to use this, let's say have this, we can have this line chart or this column chart. Let's just keep it simple. I'll use this column chart, and this should be based on expense. I want to know the category of expenses that I had, so I can use this expense subform as well, so that I can know which category it was. So expense category I'll have in the x-axis, and places that I spent my money, and in the y-axis I can have actual data, select values of amounts spent, and I can have expenditure right here. So this also you can select the records for this month. Let's just have it as all records and hit done. So I have my chart also here. I can go ahead and also embed these reports. So I want to embed my all expenses report. You can simply drag and drop here. You can filter for this month or this year. I'll just let it be. And finally I can have other panels also. I want to know the active accounts and the inactive accounts. For this I will click, let's see how many. Okay, this one I'll have. Let's just change the icon to something. A lot of icon options. I like changing the icon options. So this one would tell me the count from my ad account. Selected record says the status should be open, active. Hit done, and I'll rename it as active accounts. It can go to my report of all accounts. I want to do the same for inactive accounts as well. So you can keep customizing your dashboards. You can even have percentages. So let's say my expense went up by 15% as opposed to my expenses last month, or my income and expense is not in a very healthy ratio. You can do a lot of stuff, but this is a basic app, so I'm only sticking to the basics. But I want you to know that dashboards are really versatile, like pages. I'm just naming it as dashboard, but with pages you can do a lot. This I'm going to rename as inactive accounts. Here I want to choose the count of the selected records whose status is inactive. Hit done. Let's change this account as well. Action is opening the report, all accounts. And the dashboard is done. Hit done, and then we will go and refresh our app. Let's see, I'm very excited always to see the dashboards coming up so nice and pretty. So this is our dashboard, and as you can see, we did a lot of magic in less than a minute. I don't think I took even a minute to create this very pretty dashboard, which is so useful. Once you start creating apps, you will know that dashboard is the thing, because when you see it, you know everything at a glance. For now, I know that I am in a very poor state of balance because I'm only minus 95. Income this month was 50,000, but the expenditure was in dollars. I don't know why it came as dollars. I think I need to change the currency field here. And then you can see the expenditures. Food expenses were low, but rent was really high this month, and transportation was comme si comme ça. And if you go to the expenses, you can see all the expenses that I incurred this month. And if you go even below, you can see that you have just one active account and 0 inactive accounts. So if I click on this, it will take me to my accounts report where I can see the active ones. If you click on this, so every time you click on any, so let's say you see this highest expense this month and you want to know, oh my god, where did I spend so much? It will take you to a splitwise account of your expenses. If you click on this, it will take you to the income. So from just one page, you can go everywhere around in your app, and you could share this dashboard with your admin if you are an organization. So that's up for dashboard. Just be playful with it, and I would like to see very colorful dashboards that you could build. So you could just comment below this video, and let's move to a demo. Now we created this app in 5 steps. In the first step, we created an account. We then made a form to collect our expenses, to collect our incomes, a workflow to show the current bank balance, and then a dashboard to show all the metrics. Let's check a demo of this app. Now that we are done with all the 5 steps of our app, I'm going to rewind everything by going through a quick demo. So we'll know what we have done and recapitulate everything that we have learned. First up, we are going to add a new account. I'll name this account. The other one was Bank SBI. I'm going to name this one as PayPal. Status is active, and the active balance, let's say to start with, is 100. Add. Then I will add another one, and this one will be a mobile wallet, and this one is inactive. Let's add it. When I go to all accounts, you'll see that the mobile wallet, which is inactive, and the PayPal is listed here with 100 each, with 100, and the mobile wallet is 0. This is the first step. Second, when you have any income, you're going to add it. Today is the date. Choose an account. I'm going to add in PayPal. Source of income is not salary, it's dad's pocket money, and he has given me 200 bucks. I add it, and in all income, you'll see that dad's money is right here. It has been added to PayPal. When I go to my accounts and check PayPal account, you see that it's active and it has been created with 300. It had 100 to start with, and after my dad's 200, it became 300. Let's go to expenses now. In the third step, you add expenses. You click on some date, you add an account, account PayPal. See, notice that because I had filtered only active accounts, mobile wallet is not appearing here. So I have my PayPal. In my expense category, I will add other. This one will be movies. So I spent 40 on movies. My total expense is 40, and I hit add. In all expenses, you'll see that you spend something on PayPal. When you click on it, you'll see that in PayPal there's an expense of 40. But if you want to go to a detailed view, then you can either unhide the expenses subform that we had built. And finally, we can go to dashboard. So in dashboard, you can see everything. You can even change the layout so the dashboard comes up through our customization where I had shown you. Let's go to the edit. If you go to the edit application, right here, I can customize everything. So I want that the dashboard should come up. It should be the first thing that I see. Sorry, it should come above income. You can change it this way. Yeah, it came up. And then I can also customize it through this bucket icon here. You can change the layouts. Let's say we want to have a layout like this. We'll go and see what were the changes that happened by simply refreshing my live app. And see, the entire look of the app has changed. If you click on it, it looks like this. You have different tabs for adding income, all incomes, dashboard, add account, all account, everything. And then this is the mobile view. So if you want to access your personal finance tracker app from your mobile, you'll simply have to get it from App Store or Play Store. Whatever you have built on the web will be readily available on the mobile. You just have to download it. So as you can see, there's a preview coming up here where you can see all income, how it would look. You have your reports here. You have your filters here, the income account and the expense. You have your tab view here. So when you build with a low-code platform like Creator, you get an app for all the devices. So we were on the dashboard. Let's check the dashboard now. So this is my available balance, the highest expense that I've incurred this month. If I click on this, I'll see all the expenses. The income this month, you can see that movies I have spent 40, and this is, I have one inactive account. I can click on it and I'll see that it's the mobile wallet. One thing that I could change here is that I could unhide my expenses subform and see what's the change that happens after that. I'll refresh it. This is my expense subform. If I click on the expense subform, I can see the detailed view of it. But first I have to add something in it. So let's say an expense category, food expense was 23 this time. Hit submit. Okay, I didn't unhide the expense subform report. I'll make it show here. And now if I refresh it, the expense subform report will also be visible. This is the expense subform report. If I click on it, I'll see movies there. Yeah, the movie was 40, food expenses 23. So I think you would have got a fair understanding of how the creator forms and subforms work. You can hide them, you can disable them, you can create a dashboard which you can link to every other form and report, so that just with one dashboard you can access everything. So this was a quick demo. Let's move on to the app deck. Now this was the basic app of the main personal finance tracker app that is there in the app deck page of Creator. You can log into creator.zoho.com and check out the main app, which is full with much more features created by our developers. Now, in the final bonus point, I'm going to take you through a walk tour of the personal finance tracker app that is in the app gallery. So app gallery has 70 pre-built apps that you can simply install and start working on right away if you don't want to learn coding or the needs of your organizations are so dire you cannot wait to have an app. This was developed by developers and I'll take you through it to see, because this has a lot of features that I could not build today due to paucity of time. And let's go through it. So there are transactions. They have renamed the dashboard as transactions. You can see there's current balance, liabilities, this month's income, this month's expense, active accounts, archive accounts, the balance and liabilities here. They have a chart in which you can even select the month. Again, this is the account. You can select whether it's the purse or wallet, the month, and they will show you the chart. Pretty sophisticated stuff. They have the recent income here. They have done a bit of HTML and ZML to make it look like it's looking now. No expenses, recent transfers. So I think they have detailed split of the income as well as the expense chart right here in the transactions, and they have a column, a section that we don't have, and that's the reminders and amount transfer. So here through this app you can even transfer the amount between two wallets. Let's say I had something in my bank SBI and then I had another in my PayPal. Here you can transfer from one wallet to the other. Available balance in this account is 6,000. You can transfer amount less than this amount. Okay, let me add a new account and see what happens. It's group cash, name is PayPal, status is active, and I hit it, and then I just want to transfer this amount. In transfers, you can see in the fund transfers, the amount that I have changed now is here. And if you go to transactions, in current balance, you can click it. Okay, they don't have the clicking facility here. Unlike in my app, they have reminders here. So you can add a reminder to keep a cap on your expenses or your income. What else do they have? They have expense categories. This I also have with my subform. And then they have groups in accounts where you can either classify it as cash. So pretty much what we did, but a bit more layered and sophisticated. If you like this app, you can go to the app gallery through creator.zoho.com and install this app and start tracking your personal finance right now. I hope you can build today's app without any malfunctions. If you have any queries, then please comment below this video and I'll get back to you. Also share this video to anyone who you think needs a finance app. For more such video content, subscribe to our channel App DNA, where we have much more interesting apps queued. Also, tap the bell icon below to be notified every time a video comes up. Till then, keep making apps and be happy.